Now that we've worked on the order of operations, we can continue with our vocabulary. See if you can fill in the blanks for this question. When I look at the 2, I notice it's to the left of an addition symbol, and so that makes 2 a term. When I look to the right of the addition, I see the 3, so it's common to think of the 3 as a term also. But in fact, 3 isn't a term, it's a factor. And the reason for that is, if you look at the 3, it's actually part of a product here, 3 times 5. And by the order of operations, the product is going to get done before the sum. Which means you can't say 3 is a term because it'll actually be part of a 15, and the 15 will be the term. So 2 is a term, 3 is a factor, 5 is a factor, and then the 3 times 5 is both a product and a term. Because once we find the product, that's what we're going to be adding to the 2. And so the 15 is actually to the right of the addition symbol. Last, we often name an expression by the last operator we're going to perform. So in this case, we have 2 operators, adding and multiplying. But the last one we're going to do is addition, and that makes the entire expression a sum. Try this one. I have 2 operators, division and subtraction. Since 1 is above the bar, it's going to be the dividend. Since 2 is below the bar, it's going to be the divisor. 1 divided by 2 is both a quotient, and since that quotient is to the left of the dash symbol, it's also the minuend. The 3 is the subtrahend, since it's to the right of the subtraction symbol. And since if we followed order of operations, we would divide first and subtract second, the entire expression is a difference. Here's another one to try. In this problem, we have 3 operators, the addition, the subtraction, and the division. If we look at the dividend, it's a sum. The 7 and the 4 are both going to be terms. The 7 plus 4 is going to be a sum, but it's also above the bar, so it's going to be the dividend for a quotient. Below the bar, 5 is going to be the minuend into the subtrahend, since one is to the left and the other to the right of the dash symbol. The 5 minus 2 is both a difference, and since it's below the bar, it's also going to be a divisor. By order of operations, we would add first and then subtract and divide last, and since we would divide last, the entire expression is a quotient. Here's another one. Here we have 1, 2, 3 operators. There's going to be a multiplication here we don't see. Starting in our first grouping symbol, the 3 is a term, the 4 is a term, and together they make a sum. If we put parentheses around that sum, though, we have a factor. In the second set of parentheses, the 11 is the minuend, the 8 is the subtrahend, the 11 minus 8 is a difference, but once again, if we put parentheses around that difference, we have a second factor. By order of operations, we would add and subtract and then multiply last, and that makes the entire expression a product. And here's our last one. In this problem, the 18 and the 2 are both terms since they're part of a sum. If we put parentheses around that sum, it becomes a factor. The 4 is also a factor, which makes the 4 times the quantity 18 plus 2 both a product and a term. The reason it's a term is the entire product is to the left of this addition. In the second set of parentheses, the 12 is the minuend and the 6 the subtrahend, because 12 minus 6 is a difference. If we put parentheses around that difference, we get a factor. 3 is a second factor. That means 3 times the quantity 12 minus 6 is a product, and it's also a term because it's to the right of this addition symbol. By the order of operations, we would add and subtract, then multiply and multiply, and we would do this addition last, and that makes the entire expression a sum. Well, that concludes this video on vocabulary.